Here, I have this one here if you want.
No, it's okay.
It might be a different type of, if it's a different edition, it could be different.
What do you do?
So today is Tuesday. It is Chof Shvat Tovshin Ayin Dalet. We're in Teres Menachem Sefer Mamarim, Tovshin Yud Aleph, Tovshin Yud Beis. In the Mamar of Shabbos Pashas Mishpotim, Tovshin Yud Beis, Sihiye Meshakeiloh. We are on page Reish Chof, chapter 5, Ois Hey. Before we go on, I just want to point out that I want to correct something that I said yesterday. In the previous section, on page Reish Yutes Omnam, the Rebbe says that there are two aspects to davening. Davening brings about two. The effect of davening is in two matters, right? Well, the Rebbe says like this: that davening, the effect of davening is both in the godly soul and in the animal soul. In the godly soul, it affects its connection to its source, to Hashem, and in the animal soul and in the person's part designated for him to refine and lift in this world, and in his body, it affects refinement. Then the Rebbe went on to say, and these two matters are related to the emotion of love to Hashem. Which two matters? The two matters are the two matters of...
Pages are missing. You're finding a little bit. Yeah,
Huh?
give it to me, I'll find it.
The two matters are...
I've got lots of files. You want to know?
both the effect that it has, here it is, the effect that it has in the animal soul, that's aspect one, and the second aspect is the refinement that it causes in the person's body, animal soul, and his share in the world. Again, davening affects the person in two areas. Number one, it connects his godly soul to its source, and number two, it affects refinement in the person's guf v'nefesh habamis v'chelki ba'olam, person's body, animal soul, and his part of the world designated for him to lift and refine. So the Rebbe said that for both of them, you need the Ahavas Hashem as well. Yira is not enough. Which two? Not only in refining and lifting, and the person's body, animal soul, and part of the world designated to him. You need the emotion of love to Hashem, because love brings about what? Change, unlike fear, which just imposes. But also for the godly soul to connect to Hashem, you also need what? The emotion of love, even though the godly soul doesn't need to change. But if the godly soul came into this world for what purpose? Not for its own purpose, because for the purpose of being connected to Hashem, it could have remained up above. It came down here, and it needs to reconnect to Hashem while it's down here. For what purpose? For the purpose of transforming the animal soul, the body, and through that the person's part in the world designated to him. So therefore, as long as the godly soul does not fulfill its mission, so long as the godly soul does not affect change in the animal soul and in the person, it hasn't fulfilled its mission. So therefore, what good is it that it connects to Hashem? So therefore, the idea of the emotion of love is connected to both. You need love for the animal soul to be transformed, for the person to be transformed, and also for the godly soul to fulfill the mission for which it came to this world. That's the point. Anyway.
It's tied up with the Or and Keilu earlier on in the minor as well, because that's the way I
Yes.
see it.
Yeah.
It's connected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, page Reish Chof, and we are up to chapter 5. Now, we've established that serving Hashem is meaningful at all levels. At the level of Ishtalshalus, within the chain order of creation, and also beyond Ishtalshalus. Both from the perspective of the refinement of us, our refinement, the refinement of created beings, and also meaningful in the sense that Hashem desires it, and it has meaning also, even so far as the highest levels of godliness and Hashem himself. We've also established that it's necessary, in order to serve Hashem properly, you need Yira, Kabbalas oil, fear, and the acceptance of yoke, and also Ahavas Hashem, love of Hashem. Now the pasuk carries, that's Vavadatem as Hashem Alekechem. Now we come, and that's the verse, and you should serve Hashem your God. Now we come to the verse on which our Mamar is based. Sihiye Meshakeiloh, there shall not be a miscarrying and barren woman. And as the Rebbe said in the first part of the Maimon, the first chapter, that it's an instruction and it's a promise. Basically means to say that a person has to do what he can in Avodas Hashem, not to be miscarrying and not to be barren. And then Hashem promises that if a person does what he can, Hashem will do his part. What does this mean in Avodas Hashem? The idea of barrenness and miscarrying. Well, and to explain the method in which one should serve Hashem, your God, our God. Mamshich bakosov, the verse continues, Sihiye Meshakeiloh, there shall not be a miscarrying and barren woman among you. Hine, what does that mean in the spiritual sense? Akorahi, what does it mean? A barren, when someone is barren, he she'ene ledas banim, someone who cannot give birth to children. In the spiritual sense, the koyal amidus avavayira, children, offspring, in the spiritual sense, refer to the two emotions of love and fear of Hashem. Why are they called children, offspring? Because they are tuldas hayizbonenus. They are offspring, they are born through contemplation. Or, another word for that is cogitation, which means thinking deeply about something. So when one contemplates a certain idea, that brings forth emotions. So, what the Av and Yira are the children, the emotions of love and fear are the children, the offspring of the intellectual contemplation. Love is the idea of a son, and fear is the idea of a daughter, in the spiritual sense. Because Av is related to Chesed, love is related to the attribute of Chesed, kindness. Yireh is related to the attribute of Gvura, strictness, as it were, withholding, regulating, right? And we know that in the divine attributes, Chesed is Zochar, and Yira and Gvura is Nekeva. Chesed is masculine, and Gvura is feminine. Chesed is the idea of giving, Gvura is the idea of receiving. In Oiris and Kalim, similarly also, as Harris mentioned, Oir is the giving aspect, and Kalim is the receiving aspect, right? Oir is the giving, and the Kali is the regulating. So too, the emotions of Chesed and Gvura, when you talk about Midas HaChesed, the Midas HaDin, these are the powers of giving and withholding, or giving and regulating, which is giving and receiving, which is also in the natural sense. There's the man that is the giver and the woman that's the receiver. So upon him, be that as it may, Chesed Ben is Av is Ben. Love is the emotion of love is the son. The Yira bechinas Bas, and fear is the idea of the daughter. So they are the offspring of what? Of the intellectual contemplation. So when a person contemplates the greatness of Hashem and all the things that are explained in Chassidus, that brings forth, as the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, in the beginning, in chapter 3, that contemplation brings forth the emotions of love and fear of Hashem. So what is Akara? Akara means a person, who does not give birth to the emotions of fear and love and fear, despite what? Despite having the contemplation of the greatness of Hashem, it doesn't give birth to those emotions. Meshakeiloh, what does it mean a person who miscarries? He she'eledes avavir. The emotions do come into being. But what? They don't have continuous existence. He loses the emotion. It doesn't have any continuity. And it's upon this that we are instructed. Sihiye Meshakeiloh. There shall not be a miscarrying and barren woman or person among you. What does that mean? That the contemplation and the greatness of Hashem needs to be in such a manner that it should bring forth the birth of the emotions. Number one. And also number two, that what? That those emotions that are born through the contemplation should have continued existence. Because it's only then that serving Hashem, as is denoted in the previous verse, then you shall serve Hashem your God, only then is the serving of Hashem proper and appropriate. Now the Rebbe fleshes it out. To explain this concept, when we talk about a woman who does not give birth, a barren woman, yesh beis bechinas, there are two types. Bechina ha'alef, one type of barrenness is shafilu beis vlad, beis mitrein ein la, that she doesn't even have a womb or a uterus. The Gemara says in Yevamis, and on the pasuk, the Sora Akora Ein Lo Velod, Sora was barren, she had no child. So the Gemara says it's a double expression, superfluous. So the Gemara says, Amar Rab Nachman, Amar Rabba Barabo, Rabbi Nachman said in the name of Rabba Barabo, that what is the added part of the pasuk? She didn't have Velod. What does that mean? She didn't have a child. It means that she didn't even have the potential to give birth, which means to say she didn't have a womb or a uterus. The same thing the Medrash says on another pasuk, that when Eibishter says concerning Sora, Uveirachtiha, I will bless her. What does it mean? I will bless her. Hashem had to create for her a base mitrain, a womb. By the way, what's mitrain? Mitrain, the Matnas Kuna, the beard on the Medrash Rabbah over there says mitrain. He brings from the Aruch, who's one of the etymologists, Talmudic etymologists, as it were. He says mitrain in Roman is womb. Mitrain, mother, mutter. In Yiddish or German, in German it's also mutter. Matron. Okay, or mother or mutter is also, it seems that's from the same root. Anyway, be that as it may. So what does it mean that one type of barren woman is that she doesn't even have a uterus or a womb? Hainu she'ein l'klei kibul l'kabel ha'iroin. She has no vessel, no receptacle where the pregnancy should be received. L'tzerech haleida, for the purpose of giving birth. What is this idea in serving Hashem? Shebeis valad. What does it mean? What's the womb in the spiritual sense? This refers to the intellectual excitement through which through which the birth of the emotions come to be revealed in a person's heart. So that is barren, one type of barrenness. That there is no womb, that the excitement doesn't even start where? In the intellect, let alone for it to come and to be born as a full-blown emotion in the heart. What does it mean? Barrenness that doesn't have a womb means the Rebbe elaborates. Not only doesn't he have love and fear of Hashem revealed in his heart, which is the birth, which is what? That would be considered the dullness of the heart. The person doesn't even, this type of person doesn't even have intellectual excitement. Which is the idea of the dullness of the mind. So that is one type of barrenness. What's the reason? Because the person is not a receptacle. Why is he not a receptacle? Because his receptors are full. What does it mean? Full of what? Full of things that don't allow spirituality and godliness to excite him. And in the measure of man, in human terms, a full vessel does not receive, does not hold. Remember with the Mamar.
Just point to the page where you are.
Page Reish Chaf Aleph.
No, point to the point. 10 lines there.
Right? We learned in the Mamar previously, the Gemara says in Brachos, there's a whole long Gemara over there about Midas Basar V'Dam and Midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that in human terms, a full vessel cannot receive because it's full. And an empty one does. And in Midas HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the other way around. On Hashem's terms, it's the other way around. But on human terms, what are we saying? The Rebbe explains that a full vessel does not receive. Once it's full, it can't receive. So the Rebbe elaborates, full of what? When the person is a full vessel, when his receptors are full, it means that the person is full of his own desires. We're not even talking, certainly when we talk about what? The desires of the evil inclination. These are desires to prohibited matters. Or even when we talk about desires of the animal soul. When it desires permitted matters, although they are permitted matters. The desire for them, when a person lusts for them, even though they're permitted things, it is from the aspect of the Jewish demon. What does that mean? A demon is the idea of here, in this context, this is an expression from the Zohar, Tanya and the Zohar. It means something that lures the person someplace where the person shouldn't go. Right? So there is a Jewish demon, as it were. It means desires when a person is lured to what? to permitted things, but in excess. Unnecessary. Permitted but unnecessary. So even when we talk about such desires that are permitted, but because they are excess and they're unnecessary, so then he's full. But the Rebbe says even further, when we say that the person's receptors are full, which hinders the person from receiving divine inspiration, even if we're talking about desires of the godly soul. So we're not only talking about, certainly if you talk about this prohibited desires, even this permitted desires but in excess, but even godly desires, the desires of the godly soul. But there's one problem, which means what? They're holy desires. If the person is full and preoccupied with his desires, what does that mean? This means to say, he says that in this mode of serving Hashem, I have a certain talent and I have a tendency to it, and therefore I desire to serve Hashem in this manner. But this desire, this service of Hashem, I do not desire. And the Rebbe says it in Yiddish. Die Aveda will und die Aveda will nicht. This service of Hashem, he does want. This one he does not want. So what happens then? Even though they're holy desires, Azai Hukli Mole, he is then a full vessel. His receptors are full. What does that mean? He cannot grasp the truth in his mind and in his brain. So that from that should come and come forth an excitement, an intellectual excitement in Avodas Hashem. So this is barrenness. Number one. Then there's a second type of barrenness. This type of the barrenness is someone who does have a womb, does have a receptor, but it doesn't give birth, doesn't function properly. He has a receptor that receives, leida to know, to become excited in his mind, in his brain. But once it comes to the heart, it doesn't bring about the birth of the emotion that it should be revealed in his heart. Just like in order there should be birth in the physical sense, there needs to be the planting of the seed and the what's the word the fertilization of the seed. How? Through the revelation of God's infinite power, right? Because how do you get from a simple physical seed that has been implanted in a woman, how do you get to that, a human being that lives? That is the revelation that says the procreation is the closest you get to the revelation of God's very essence. It's the idea of creation, procreation, right? So just like for the purpose of birth, you need to have that revelation of God's infinite, quintessential infiniteness. So too, in order for there to be the birth of the emotions, which is the spiritual procreation, there needs to be that fertilization. There's another word for it, when the two eggs meet and they... Anyway, the idea of actually that from that seed to become what? To turn into a fetus and ultimately into a human being. Right? So in the spiritual sense, you need the same thing. What is that zriya? That fertilization or zriya? Or how does he translate it over there in English? Inyan hazriya.
Inyan hazriya.
For the purpose of birth, there needs to be...
I don't know.
You want to pass it to me for half a second?
No. Al-Zriya, sowing the seeds.
It needs fertilization.
Fertilization, okay. Namra kuktan. Physical struggle requires an impregnation assisted by the revelation of the power of yourself, giving birth to the emotion that requires impregnation. Over here, he defines it as impregnation. Okay. So therefore, also in the spiritual sense, when we talk about spiritual birth, we need the assistance of the Ein Sof. There needs to be the aspect of the Ein Sof which is introduced into the process. What is that? Oir Zoru ala Tzaddik, the light which is planted for the Tzaddik. What does that mean for the righteous? The koyel azriya the Torah mitzvahs. We're talking about the planting that takes place through Torah and mitzvahs. Uba'al yidei koyach elyon dafke. This comes through a very high power and force. In other words, just like when we plant physically. Take physical planting. You take a seed and you plant it in the ground. What do? I take a seed, I plant it in the ground, and then I wait for the koyach hatzameach, the power that is vested within the earth that causes things to grow, to take over, as it were, and to cause it to grow. So once I've planted, I've done my job, and then something else is introduced, comes along, and brings about the process of growth and sprouting. Mitzvah is the same thing. What do? I do a physical act. That's the planting. And then through that, there is some external higher power that causes the revelation of Getlachkeit. Who is that? That is Hashem. Right? Similarly, when we talk about procreation, it's the same idea. The person does his part, and then something happens that causes that to be transformed into a fetus, into a child, and then birth. So in the spiritual sense, we have to plant, which is Torah and mitzvahs. And then there is the koyach elyon, this greater power that allows for that Torah and mitzvahs to grow and to be born. What is that? What is that planting? Now he says like this: there needs to be a part in the person. There needs to be something that the person has to contribute something similar to this higher power. What is that? The introduction of a higher power through the effort of the person is this quintessential tremor, which is beyond reason, beyond understanding, beyond rationality, which needs to happen at least once a year. When is that? When we first start serving Hashem. Like for example on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, or when we are at the beginning of serving Hashem. So we need to have that essential movement. We move ourselves from our limited condition, and we have this movement into a state where we want to be inspired, we want to be connected to Hashem. Beyond rationality. And then of course it's fleshed out in Avodas Hashem through his oneness, contemplation, and emotion, and so on and so forth. V'gam la'achrei hazriya, and also after the planting, yesh ne'aseh d'imei ha'ibur. So up until now we described what? The Rebbe described the process of spiritual impregnation, if you will, right? And the components that are required for that. The hazoza atzmis, this essential movement, tremor, moving myself from my own limited situation and opening myself up for something completely beyond me, right? Which is the koyach ein sof. Then there is what? His bonus, the contemplation, which brings forth what? The birth of the midas of the children, love of Hashem and fear of Hashem. But that is, we're not yet talking about birth, we're talking about pregnancy. So now we've established a successful pregnancy. But now you have to hope that the pregnancy will be a sustained one, and there will be actual childbirth. The gam le'achrei hazriya, and also after the planting, yesh ne'aseh d'imei ha'ibur, after the pregnancy there's also. There is the order of the days of the pregnancy, of gestation, when the fetus grows. Until what? Until the child is born and becomes revealed to the environment of our world. So there's also the order of gestation, days of gestation, for the purpose of giving the emotions being born in a revealed way in the heart. Right? So now, okay, so successful pregnancy, successful gestation, and successful childbirth. So there's no akara. So now we're in a state where there's no barrenness. But then we're still under the threat of Meshakeiloh. God forbid. The child might not last. However, even after the emotions of love and fear of Hashem were revealed in the heart in an open way, which is what? Hashlila da'akara, we have now negated. We have now moved out of the bracket of being barren. There was childbirth, there needs to be the caution, that the child that was born should continue to exist, which is what? Hashlila Meshakeiloh, negating, moving out of the danger of being what? Meshakeiloh, God forbid, losing the child, losing the emotion. losing the avavira, losing the love and fear of Hashem. Shedafke oz, it is only then when the love of Hashem and the fear of Hashem is sustained, only then ha'avodah hi amitis is the service of Hashem really and true avodas Hashem. Moshe Kosov, as the verse Moshe Shlomo Melech says in Mishlei, in Proverbs, Sfas emes tikkun la'ad, the true lip is established forever. The pasuk goes on and says, "V'ad argil l'shein shaker," and the false lip, the false tongue, is momentary. So when do we know that something is really, really real, truly real? If it is sustained. Why? For example, there's a pasuk that says, "V'Hashem elakim emes hu elakim chayim." God is the God of truth. He is the God of life. Life, which means sustainability, that's truth. So how do we know if the avodas Hashem is true? If the emotions that are born, the avavira that are born through the hisbonenus, through the contemplation, are not only born, but are sustained. And by definition, grow. Because a child grows as well. Chapter 6, another couple of lines. Today is davening at 10 past, yeah? Chapter 6, Oisvav, top of page Reish Chof Beis. So now, I'll find a good. So now we're talking about somebody who is not a Meshakeiloh, and not an Akara, not barren, and not miscarrying. So in other words, we have contemplation, we have his bonus, we have Ava V'Yira, the birth of love and fear of Hashem. The love and fear of Hashem is sustained. It's not good. That's not enough, says the Rebbe. However, there's one more thing that a person has to be careful about. To use devices and remedies that to make sure, concerning this phenomenon. Even when the person serves Hashem properly, both in connection to the contemplation in his to the contemplation in his mind, and also concerning the emotions in the heart, that they're revealed in his heart, and they're not false impressions, but they're really and truly they're real and true love and fear of Hashem. And this love and fear of Hashem are also felt in his fulfillment of the Torah and the mitzvahs, which means in addition to just fulfilling the mitzvahs in actuality, he also knows the intention of the mitzvahs, of each and every mitzvah. Not only does he know the intentions of the mitzvahs, he also knows also the manifestations, which come about, the Kima Torah mitzvahs, the spiritual manifestations that are brought about through the fulfillment of mitzvahs. And the Rebbe over here enumerates some of them, and this, I'm sure Eddie would have been happy, would be happy with this. Through a person's act of tzedakah, of charity, he draws down godliness in the line of kindness, right? Because we know that the Seder Shtal Shlus is divided into three lines: Kava Yamin, Kava Smol, and Kava Mitzoi. Kava Yamin, the right line, is the Chesed line. Kava Smol is the Gvura line, is the line of strictness, and the Kava Mitzoi is the line of mercy. And there are spheres that are connected to each one of these sections. So when we serve Hashem with tzedakah, when we give charity, we draw down manifestations in the line of Chesed. Like there, there's a Gvura through serving Hashem through Gvura in the line of strictness, of withholding, which is Mishpat B'Yaakov, judgment. In Jacob, this is a pasuk in Tilim. We draw down those manifestations in the line of Gvura. What does that mean? It means that we regulate Hashem's manifestations to such an extent that it allows them to be channeled only to the Kavah Kedusha, to the side of holiness, and not to the side of Klippa, to the side of unholiness. Right? Through the learning of Torah, which is the middle line, we draw down those divine manifestations that are associated with the center line. So he knows this is a person that has his bonus. This is a person who has Avas Hashem, B'yiras Hashem. This is a person who knows the Kavanas HaMitzvahs, the intentions of mitzvahs. This is a person who knows which aspects are drawn down by which mitzvahs. This is a person who serves Hashem in such a manner that the manner that is hinted in the choice of language in the verse, and you shall serve Hashem your God. What does it mean? Havaya Elekechem. That Yud Kei Vav Kei is Elekechem, which means Sheshem Havaya, the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, Echad, which denotes Hashem as He is in the mode of past, present, and future, all in one. Ulamayla Yeser, even Shem Havaya, which is beyond Haya Heve V'Yikechad, because there is an aspect of godliness, which, because when you say Haya Heve V'Yikechad, past, present, and future all in one, it means he's beyond time, but he's still associated in time, because you're saying it's past, present, and future all wrapped up in one. It means that time has some relevance there. Ulamayla Yeser, but even we're talking about a higher level of Yud Kei Vav Kei, B'chinas Havaya Shalamayla Mishtal Shalos, Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is even beyond, completely beyond the chain order of creation, right? So we say, "V'avadetem es Havaya lekeichem." What time is it? Oh, it's late. Okay, so let me just finish this line. So when we say "V'avadetem es Hashem lekeichem," it means, and you shall serve. That you're serving Hashem in such a manner that Yud Kei Vav Kei in this highest level becomes a lekeichem, your God, which means keichachem v'chayisechem. This becomes your strength in your life. So even when you're at such a level, we still need to be cautious of certain things, which the Rebbe is going to explain further on. We'll continue this term tomorrow.